Hi, I'm Robert Perella, and we're outside the Marin Center in Marin, California, where we're showcasing and presenting David Icke. And this is produced by New Living Expo and Ken Kaufman and myself, Robert Perella, at United Light Entertainment. And we're looking forward to an in-depth look into what makes David Icke tick, what his work is about with his new book, Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More. It is said that leadership is founded upon people making intelligent decisions that benefit the masses with often startling and incredible results. David is a way shower. He's part of the transition team. He's one who makes the difference. I think you're going to find this a very interesting YouTube presentation for your entertainment pleasure and for your wisdom. Thanks so much and enjoy the interview. David, when I read your book, Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More, one of the things that stuck out for me was the fact that the moon is a hollow construct that has been interacting with human DNA since perhaps before recorded history. I'm looking at that and saying to myself, when we have a revealment or an understanding like that, something like that only comes around every 300 years. It's a remarkable finding. Why do you feel that?
Well, to answer that question, you really have to look at my life in the last 20 years. 20 years ago, I had a massive awakening. And I went to a psychic when I was still a television presenter, still a national spokesman of the British Green Party, into none of this stuff at all. And was told I was going to go out on a world stage and reveal great secrets. And what was said to me at that time was that they, whoever they are, would lead me to knowledge and put knowledge into my mind. And that's exactly what's happened for 20 years. From that moment, I went on a journey where some unseen force has been handing me pieces in a puzzle. And after 20 years, you get to know the sequence. And you get to know when something's going, look at this, look at this, look at this. What has happened again and again and again, Robert, is a subject has come into my life out of nowhere. And from that moment, things relating to that subject are coming at me from all angles. That's how I put the books together all along. And you get led to books, documents, personal experiences, continually repetitive confirmation of the same facts coming from different people in different ways. And I just put it together. When I started out on the whole moon thing, it was a classic sequence again, where I sat down at the computer to start writing a day of that book, and the energy in the room changed, and I thought, here we go, I know this one. And then what passed through my mind was very powerfully, the moon's not like you think it is, or worse to that effect. The moon's not what people think it's to be, like a natural body. And I put a few words into NetFind, and up came a book called Who Built the Moon, which I'd never heard of, by two researchers who've written other books. And I read it very quickly when it arrived, and I realized, as you do so often when you're challenging convention, that we're born into the world and we tend to accept what's already here as how things are. We don't question them. And this is very relevant, for instance, now, because we are at the moment the last generations who have the ability to see how the world was in terms of at least a semblance of freedom, and how it's becoming now with all the surveillance, all the tracking, all the fingerprinting and iris scanning. The children being born today, to them, this is how it is. They've got nothing to compare it with.
The socio-conditioning is so impactful that we think this is it.
Yeah, and so apply that to the moon. You're born into the world, the moon comes up. Night after night after night, year after year after year.
You don't question it.
Don't question it. And when I started, because of this process that began, in the way I've explained, when I started looking at the moon, I was thinking, I never knew that. I never knew that. And so often when you see what is accepted to be scientific fact, like, oh, this is how the moon was formed, mate. When you go through the process of following that back, it's a theory. In truth, science has no idea where the moon came from. And as one scientist said quite rightly, the only thing you can say for sure about the moon is it must be observational error. It shouldn't be there. It's far too big. And as this book, Who Built the Moon, points out, the geometry and the mathematics between the moon, the earth, and the sun are absolutely incredible. So much so that the moon is about the same size as the sun when viewed from the earth, which is where we get the eclipses from. And then you start to realize the extent to which, never mind this moon matrix that I'm talking about as an add-on to this, even the moon being there, the size that it is, where it is, it's a fundamental impact on human life. The angle of the earth, the speed of spin, so it's affecting our relationship to time. It has a fundamental impact on the endocrine system, which connects into the chakra system, which connects into the hormonal system. It has an impact, a serious impact on the pineal gland, part of the third eye, the sixth sight, the getting out there beyond five sense reality. And of course it has a fundamental effect on the tidal systems of the earth, and we're 60-70% water. It must have some effect even on that level. And when I started going down this road and seeing all these anomalies, and then you start to see that when the moon has been impacted with a major hit, and they've got seismometers up there to sort of recording all this and seeing what happens. And you know, they say that the moon rings like a bell or rings like a gong. One scientist talked to the authors of this book saying that it kind of shook and in a way that was like it was hollow and had hydraulic struts inside it, you know. And then you've got this very, very large titanium content of the moon, which is very different to the Earth. And what the official story of science is that the moon came out of the Earth, that a Mars-type planet hit the moon and hit the Earth rather, and a great chunk came off and became the moon. And they call that the first one anyway, the Big Whack theory, or this impact. But when the physics of that didn't work out, they came up with a double Big Whack theory, which is that this Mars-type planet hit the Earth, went away, came back, and gave it another smack. You know, it's like they haven't got a clue, and it's very clear when you put all this stuff together that for me the moon is not real. It could be a hollowed out planetoid, or it could be a from scratch construct, because this is the big thing that we as humans have to get across and get over if we're going to understand the nature of what's going on in the world. And that is the cutting edge of human technological, whatever you want to call it, potential. Funnily enough, sits back in amazement, deep breath, shock to the core, is actually not the cutting edge of what's actually possible. And if you want to suppress someone's sense of possibility, then suppress the information that gives them the understanding that far more is possible than appears to be so. Example, if you keep from people the law of gravity, the idea the Earth is not flat is ludicrous, because people at the bottom of a sphere without gravity would fall off. And you go, it's impossible. It's got to be flat, mate. And then you say, well, hold on, here's the law of gravity. Ah, I can see now. So what seems to be impossible, that's ridiculous, bizarre, to, I can see it now, is simply the scale of information that we have access to. went to, I called Credo Mutwa, the Zulu shaman, and I didn't say to him, look, this is what I'm thinking here as I was putting this together. I just said to him, can you tell me any African legends about the moon? First of all, there are African tribes, as there are in other parts of the world, that say our tribe goes back to before the moon came. But also, he said to me, well, the Zulu legend of the moon is it's an egg. And of course, anthropologists immediately hear that, or whatever. They go, that's crazy, you're primitive.
Yeah.
But why do they say it's an egg?
It's living.
Because they say it was hollowed out.
Right.
And it was hollowed out far, far away in the distant cosmos by reptilian entities, and in the Zulu legend's words, rolled across the heavens to the earth, where it caused great cataclysmic events. Now you move that big thing, that bugger in here, and you're going to do tremendous damage to the earth, certainly initially, because everything moves. And you look at these ancient legends all over the world. They talk about a golden age, a previous age of great human expansion and possibility coming to an end with cataclysmic events, massive earthquakes, a tidal wave that went across the earth, and the fact the earth moved. All these different cultures around the world, in different ways, describe the same thing.
It's mentioned in the Sanskrit, the Gita, the Bible, the Torah, the Sumerian tablets.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned Credo Mutwa. When you were talking about the folklore, you were also a part of this understanding of the Necklace of Mysteries that was explaining this. Can you explain that a little bit for us?
Well, I met Credo Mutwa in 1996, 97, and 98, or across that period. I met him about 2 or 3 times. We became very close friends. And he's been in the underground shamanistic network in Africa for much of his life. He's coming up to his 90th year. I mean, he goes way back. And he's had access to information that has been passed on basically in secret, because these networks were created when the Europeans came in, the British overwhelmingly, and they targeted the shamans, targeted the knowledge. They didn't want that knowledge to continue. They wanted to destroy it. They used Christianity to replace it, as they did in many countries around the world, and they targeted the shaman. They didn't want this information to be passed on, so it went underground. And when I met him, he was already, quite an age. And because in America or in places like that, people have had the ability to go through this material dream of success and found it wanting, and now they're looking for something else. In so many developing countries, including South Africa and other parts of Africa, they haven't taken that to the point where it's like found wanting. It's still the dream. It's still the thing that is the symbol of success, like the Western model with the Nike trainers and all that stuff. And so the knowledge that Credo's been carrying, I mean, a lot of people, of his own people, have been turning away from it. And he's been looking for ways to pass it on. And he reached the point where he said, the situation in the world's got to such a stage, never mind passing it on in secret, it's got to get out there. And, I've helped him do that to an extent by giving him a platform. And he's shared so much with me. And, people have looked at the Native Americans, they've looked at the South Americans, the Central Americans like the Mayans and stuff like that. And they've looked in Asia and other parts of the world. And what's so been neglected, forgotten, is Africa.
Yeah.
And Africa has the most unbelievable gifts of knowledge, both of history and other things, to give us. And there's this man sitting there who, he's a library on legs, and so he's like, talk about some force handing me pieces in the puzzle.
Yeah.
So one day they came along and said, have that one, mate. And it was Credo Mutwa, and he's been incredibly helpful to me.
It was important enough for even him to be withheld, and they stole the Necklace of Mysteries?
Yeah, the Necklace of the Mysteries, he first showed me when I first met him. it's called a necklace, but it goes on your shoulders.
Right.
And coming from it, and it's ever so heavy. How this guy, his age, walks around with it, and another one like it called funnily enough, the necklace of the moons, because they said there are many moons which aren't actually, what they seem to be. And hanging from it are symbols which he uses, and others before him, because it's about 1,000 years old, he reckons at least. He uses to tell the story of not just Africa but the world. And right at the front, pride of place, is a human woman and a clearly not human entity.
Right.
And shall we say they fit together sexually, shall we say. And he said that's there on the necklace in pride of place right at the front, because he's talking about the legends of the interbreeding between a non-human race and humans to create not just a hybrid bloodline, which became, as I've been writing about for years, these Illuminati bloodlines like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, the British royal family, passed through history, these hybrids, these demigods, these people that see themselves as a genetically and in every other way elite and
Right.
above the rest of the population.
Entitled.
But also, the human race in general was genetically tinkered with.
Sure.
And it seems to me, the more I put this together, and it's an ongoing thing, it's gone on since I finished the book, of course, I mean, that's what I do, that there's a modus operandi here, whereby these moons are brought in to a target planet, and it's very much symbolized by the Death Star theme in the Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Of course, produced by a massive insider called George Lucas. That they move these moons in, and when that happens, the target planet's status quo, society, way of life, it's gone because of the effect of the planet, of what happens. And then when everything starts to die down and settle down, they then go to phase 2, which is changing the form, in this case the human form, changing the way that society works so it becomes a slave race and a slave society serving this control system. And what's coming more and more into my research is Saturn. And what Saturn's very famous for, of course, is the number of moons it has. And I would strongly suggest that we need to look at that from a new light as well. What are they really? And, I know that some people have pointed in the past and more recently to the fact that Phobos, the moon of Mars, is hollow and is a construct. And just before I came out here, Robert, we've got an astronomy, mainstream science astronomy program in Britain. I think it's one of the most long-running programs in the world, maybe the longest running. It's called The Sky at Night. And they had a guy on there who was talking about the fact, I think it's the European Express spacecraft, has been doing close photographing of Phobos. And they've concluded that it's very possibly hollow, and it's made of nothing like they've ever found any
Right.
meteorite or asteroid to be made of. And a number of times over the years, people have, I think Richard Hoagland's talked about it more recently, that's not actually what it seems to be. It's some kind of craft. And all I'm saying is that's actually not a one-off. It's a modus operandi.
No.
And that's just in the sky. The moon, our moon, is just a massive version of it. And when you talk about the size of it, it's been postulated that by scientists over the years that if you look at the Earth's magnetic field and the size of the Earth, it could well be that the Earth wouldn't have a satellite. And if it did, it would be a small one. That's
Right.
2,160 miles around. It's bigger than Pluto. And some scientists don't even talk about a planet-satellite-moon relationship, but a dual-planet relationship.
Right.
And then you talk to insiders over the years who've been into some of these inner projects, and one of the things that you pick up as a theme is that when they talk about spacecraft that they've seen or pictures of, it's the size of them. And again, we go back to what I was just talking about. We've got to expand our perception of possibility out of the box that says we can't do it, so it can't be done, into the understanding that because of the way humanity has been suppressed and kept down and kept ignorant, we are nothing like the cutting edge of possibility. So to dismiss something because we can't do it is fine. That's a choice. Good luck to you. Let's have a beer. But you're going to miss the point if you do.